This, of course, is the big story that we are tracking on WION. And if you're just joining us, Liz Truss, the Prime Minister of Britain, just 45 days after she took charge at 10 Downing Street, has announced her resignation in just the last half an hour, where she came out of 10 Downing Street, stood at the podium there and said that she simply was not able to deliver on the mandate for which she'd been elected for, and therefore was stepping down from the position of the Prime Minister of Britain. No one had any doubt that the days of Liz Truss in 10 Downing Street were numbered, but what has taken everyone by surprise is the manner and how rapidly things have in fact precipitated to this. The trouble, of course, started for Liz Truss as soon as her former Finance Secretary, the man that you're looking at on your screen, Kwasi Kwarteng, stepped up and announced that mini budget, which led to a sort of a meltdown of the pound sterlings, and the markets, of course, plummeted as soon as that mini budget had been announced. And from that moment onwards, it was just a matter of time before Liz Truss would have been eased out of the top position. But just a few moments ago, Liz Truss, of course, came forth and said that she was stepping down as she was not able to deliver on the mandate that she had been elected for. And also there are updates that are coming in terms of what Keir Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, has been saying. He said that the Tories no longer have a mandate to govern, and therefore he says that it is imminent and important that there should be a quick and an immediate general election. This is what Sir Keir Starmer, the leader of the opposition, has said. He also went on to state that the Conservative Party has shown that it no longer has a mandate to govern. After 12 years of Tory failure, the British people deserve so much better than this revolving door government. This is the statement that has been put out by Keir Starmer. And my colleague Alex Isaac is still with us. She is joining us live from London, and also senior journalist Mr. Andrew Whitehead is also with us. He also is joining us from London. Now, Mr. Whitehead, if I can begin with you on this. Now, this is what Keir Starmer has been saying, that the people of Britain deserve something better than a revolving door government that the Tory party appears to now be able to provide. Now, you've followed British politics for so long. The polls, the general elections, are slated to be held in 2024. Under what circumstances can the general election happen much sooner?
Well, if it's requested by a sitting Prime Minister, or if a Prime Minister and government lose a vote of confidence in the House of Commons. Neither of those things have happened, and neither of those things are imminent. So what Keir Starmer is saying is good political rhetoric, but actually in constitutional terms, the government, the Conservative government, whoever the new Prime Minister is, continues to have a mandate because the Conservatives remain the largest party in the House of Commons. Of course, Labour want an early election because the opinion polls put Labour a long, long way ahead of the Conservatives. The Conservatives similarly are going to be very reluctant to have an early election because they would risk being decimated at the polls. The likelihood is that the general election will not happen before the end of 2024, but we're in a very unstable political situation and nobody can really be sure of anything.
Absolutely, indeed. It is difficult at this moment to, in fact, predict as to what can, in fact, happen. But what was, of course, predicted is the fact that Liz Truss's days were numbered, and that's precisely what has happened, where Liz Truss, within 45 days since she was elected as the Prime Minister of Britain, has now announced her resignation. Now, my colleague Alex Isaac is also standing by in London. Alex, this is a sort of an extremely challenging and difficult political moment for the people of Britain. Now, Keir Starmer says that the Tory party has left Britain weaker and way worse off than what it was even at the beginning of this year. This is what Keir Starmer is saying. And he says that it is important that the people of Britain, of course, have a fresh start. This is the statement that is, of course, put out. What more have we heard from the Labour leader?
Well, Keir Starmer even said at the TUC meeting earlier today the same rhetoric, that he believes that the Conservatives have had their time in power. It's been 12 years. They haven't really done anything for the people, and it's time for them to go. Enough's enough. He did say that earlier this morning before we even knew about Liz Truss and her resignation, and he has reiterated that point in a statement, that he does believe that it's time for Labour to step in, that they have these ideas, that he wants to move policies forward. He wants to help those on lower income. He wants to help the health service service and defence service as well. But of course, again, for him to say that he is the opposition party, so that is what he was going to be likely to be saying. But ultimately, as you rightly say there, it's going to be all reliant on the UK population, because they're the ones that are going to be suffering through this. The market was spooked when we had the mini budget back in September, and then it came slightly up again when former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng was let go and Jeremy Hunt was put in his place. But ultimately, that is what has happened then that has caused all of this turmoil with the inflation rises and potential interest rates going up again. But haven't yet heard from the Bank of England to say what they're going to suggest about how we're going to get ourselves out of this difficult situation. So it does seem that even though anyone can jump on the bandwagon that this, it's time for someone else to take charge, it's not actually going to be happening anytime soon. The UK public still want to hear about what's going to happen for them. How are they going to survive this bleak winter? How are they going to be facing all these high costs of bills? Food, there's going to be some shortages out there. They're concerned about that. They don't want to hear this tittle-tattle or backfighting from either party member. They want to have some definite answers, and we need to get this show on the road quickly, really. We've got a week until we get this new potential Labour Conservative member contestant who's going to be taking the PM. And I think just generally the consensus is that this needs to happen quickly, and we just need to get on with it.
Absolutely indeed. Now, whoever is the person who, of course, takes charge after Liz Truss is not going to have an easy task. And remember, this is a extremely an uncertain moment for the Tory leadership, because Liz Truss had been elected after that very long process of electing the leader of the Tory party, and then she'd come out on top. And it now remains to be seen as to who are the candidates who'd want to throw their hat into the ring. And what is interesting is that Jeremy Hunt, the man who's presently the Finance Secretary, the Exchequer, has ruled himself out. He said that he is not in the running to be the next leader of the Tory party, or indeed for becoming the Prime Minister of Britain. Now, Mr. Andrew Whitehead, this of course is an extremely difficult moment politically, but also it's happened at a time when Britain is going through an extremely tough phase financially, because the winter is coming. The price of gas and energy have just skyrocketed in the aftermath of the Russia-Ukraine war. And what we are looking at is a situation where the British people are likely to face the brunt due to this political uncertainty that Britain faces.
You're right. Inflation is currently over 10%. There is a cost of living crisis with a spike in fuel prices. There's 6 months where there'll be some remission from that because of price capping, but early in the new year, those prices are likely to rise very substantially. And the increase in interest rates since the failed mini budget has meant that a lot of people are paying much more interest on their home loans. So people are desperately worried about whether they have the money to maintain their lifestyle. I think what they want is a Prime Minister in place who will be able to reassure the markets and have a measure of economic stability. And that's what, of course, we've been lacking under Liz Truss's leadership. Who that figure will be and how easy it will be for them to take over is not as yet clear. But I don't think there's going to be a general election in the near future, however much opposition parties may want it.
Absolutely indeed. And also some news concerning the British pound sterling, because it was set to be rising early this morning, but in the aftermath of the announcement by Liz Truss that she was stepping down from her position as the Prime Minister, the pound sterling seems to have slipped marginally and is trading at the rate of 1:1.13 US dollars. This, of course, is what has happened on the financial front after the announcement by Liz Truss that she, of course, is stepping down from 10 Downing Street. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.